Tonight, it's the premiere of GameTrailers TV, and I'm locked and loaded with a world exclusive bigger than the blast radius from an ion cannon. The first ever look at real gameplay from EA's new first-person action game Tiberium, set in the Command & Conquer universe. Hey everybody, welcome to the first ever episode of GameTrailers TV. I'm Geoff Keighley, and this week my Orca has touched down here at EA Los Angeles for the world-exclusive first look at gameplay from Tiberium, a new sci-fi first-person action game. And joining me now is the game's executive producer, the ever-fashionable Chris Plummer. How are you, man? Good to see you.
How you doing, Jeff?
So, Tiberium, this is set in the Command & Conquer universe, but it's not Command & Conquer : Tiberium. Why?
It's set actually in the Tiberium universe, which is one of the fictions that's been inspired by the Command & Conquer games. Tiberium really inspired us because it's got this really cool device at the center of it. The Crystal Tiberium is this resource that mankind's been fighting for all these years.
Why the decision to sort of move this to the first person? I mean, you're treating it as kind of a new franchise. This isn't kind of like Command & Conquer on the ground. Right? From
the get-go, we really wanted to do a science fiction squad-based shooter game. Got your squads to control. The way you get them into the battlefield is they're literally airdrops. So whenever you need reinforcements or if you lose a squad, dropship will come swooping in with more infantry and that sort of thing. And so you don't have to worry about micromanagement.
Ready for
Now, longtime gamers will probably remember there was another Command & Conquer first-person action game, Renegade, which was not that well received. When you guys were thinking about this, I mean, did you go back and look at what worked and what didn't about that game?
Absolutely. I think, there's a lot to learn from Renegade. For one thing, when you have a universe as deep as the Tiberium universe, it really wants to be portrayed with conviction, with the kind of realism that I think we can do with today's graphics. And that's different than the way you need to see the world when you're 1,000 feet in the air, conducting troops. So I think in terms of how we present the universe, there's a lot of learning there.
For this game, you still have the same sides. You've got, GDI, Nod, and the Skrin aliens, which are introduced in Command & Conquer 3. But you picked the GDI side for your main character. Why GDI?
Well, we wanted to tell a story from a character's perspective, and this character, Ricardo Vega, turns out to be a pretty significant new character in the canon of the Tiberium universe.
Now, he is a character that I guess has been in some of the Command & Conquer games before?
Yes, he was in the book. That actually came from us to start seeding what Vega was and what he will become in the next versions of the game that you see.
You'll play through the campaign as Ricardo Vega.
All right, so it's all Vega, no switcheroo or anything like that, playing as a Skrin alien.
I guess you have to play the game and see if we decide that's a good idea.
Welcome back to GTTV's first look at Tiberium, a brand new sci-fi FPS from the guys at Electronic Arts. And joining me now is Dan, who's the designer of this game. Good to see you, man. So, Vega is a man with a mission we don't know yet.
He is a man with a mission you don't know, but it will develop on the course of the game.
But he does have a pretty cool gun here. Now, this is the GD-10. And it's not just one gun, it's sort of its own transformer that can go into, 4 different forms?
Yeah, we're basically a human in a battle suit that's like the F-22 Raptor. The main thing with the gun was that we wanted him to be able to handle multiple situations. Like most FPSs don't have a bunch of flying units.
Right.
So we actually love the flying units from CnC, and then we started coming up with the mechanics for that. But then you don't want him to have this huge rocket launcher that he's pulling out. So it was sort of a way to get around all the main issues, but keep it a little bit more realistic.
Right.
Like the fact that you want to give a commando on the field one multi-purpose weapon. Rail rifle, so it fires magnetic slugs. Then we have actually an energy cannon, which is more of our mini ion cannon. It's not really a sniper rifle, but it can be used, and that's just to blow stuff apart.
And more than 4 throughout the game? I mean, other upgrades?
Right now we have the 4 on that gun, and then we have the orbital weapon systems. You've seen CnC lore, and you can probably project what the player will be able to control.
Upgrades, right?
Yeah.
Playing the game, you have all these, squads you see on the bottom side of the screen. How do you actually control them? I mean, because there's a map that comes up, right? But it doesn't pause the game?
No. It's actually really easy. Almost all the commands were made for FPS. So with a single press of the button, you can control each unit. It'll go where you want. It's context driven. So if you move them near cover, they'll take cover. The player doesn't have to make them use cover. And if they're near other context sensitive objects like a mech, they'll use the feet for cover. The BCU, or the Battle Command Unit, was actually developed to give the players more of a map It's a very light version of an RTS, so you can see more of the map, you can see your objectives, which makes it easier when you get bigger maps to actually figure out where you need to go and what objectives you need to do. And then we added the extra functionality of, just simple RTS commands.
So what happens to the lazy gamer then that just wants to sort of sit back and say, hey, I'll have all the squads do all the work, and I'll just sort of sit under cover under a cardboard box or something? And
it's actually a complement of two systems. It's more of a massively multiplayer aggro type of system. So your squads inherently, just like other games, are a little underpowered. Okay. So they can win, but if you have the right matchup. So we have a rock, paper, scissors, which is our orcas are good against armored units. Our mechs are good against infantry. It's not that they'll lose horribly, it's just the matchup's not perfect, so the player then has to come in and fight those battles.
Infantry deployed. Infantry ready for combat.
Hey, welcome back to Game Trailers TV. This week we're hooking you up with the world-exclusive first look at Tiberium from Electronic Arts. And Chris Plummer, the executive producer, is here with me now. But we're not looking at the game, we're looking at a board game called the Analog Prototype.
Yeah, this is sort of a blast from the past, way back in our lo-fi prototyping stages, but it sort of unlocked the balance of action and strategy. You could play action cards, or you could play tactics, if you will, like ordering squads around. And through this prototype, we were able to develop some of our design theory on how we wanted the game to play out.
Infantry 1, reposition.
And then went into low-fidelity interactive prototypes, stuff that honestly looks like 70s arcade games. Some of the weapons prototypes, some of the ideas on how would you bring troops into the battlefield with reinforcements and stuff. Those are all done as low-fidelity prototypes.
Eric, who's the audio director on this game. You've been working on this for 2.5 years?
Yep, 2.5 years.
So tell us about the sound.
We've actually developed this technology called the Adaptive Surround Experience, ASX, which allows you to essentially play the game, and it will make intelligent choices about the most important things for you to hear in the mix. It isn't something where you set it up beforehand and then it's just going to play. The sounds are always going to play the same way.
So a guy dying, is that a priority one sound when you're...
Potentially. It depends on the scenario. What it's doing is...
What could be more important than one of your teammates dying?
Well, that is important. There is a specific feedback like that. Well, it could be what's the greatest threat on you.
Right.
Or, are you going...
That's right. Somebody's going to kill you. I guess that's more important than the guy dying, right? Any cool sounds you've come up with so far with weird objects?
Yeah, I mean, there's been tons of stuff, but the one that comes to mind most recently is I have a 1-year-old son, and he managed to knock some of the food off of his plate onto one of these plastic placemats, and he was trying to grab at it, and with his fingernails he kept scratching on it, and it made the coolest little whooshing sound that I recorded, and it's now used as some of the whiz-by elements in our game.
Do you have the whoosh that you're... Find the whoosh, come on. Amazing the places you find sounds.
It is, isn't it?
We're back on Game Trailers TV, and this week we're talking about a big game that's coming out later this year. It's our world-exclusive first look at the gameplay of Tiberium. Now, Dan, you're designing this thing now. We've got single-player. Multiplayer is obviously an important part of it, right? We're going to see sort of a conquest mode for multiplayer, right?
We've talked about the one mode, which is sort of our what we're calling our conquer mode, and that's about it right now.
So multiplayer, we're not revealing a lot of details about it right now, but you will be able to take your squads into multiplayer, which is something we're really excited about.
One side? Two sides?
The way we're playing it right now is, think of it as almost like a GDI Ender's game. So all the forward battle commanders, which is this new, most elite force within GDI, think of them as like the Navy SEALs of GDI in the future.
Missile team ready for combat.
Any chance we're going to see Kane in this thing?
Well, if you look back at all the Tiberium Universe games, there's really only one character that has appeared in one form or another in all of them. The character that's had some continuity thus far might have reason to appear in our game as well.
A new day will dawn. The future is ours.
Are we going to see live-action cutscenes? Because that's something that's been very familiar to Command & Conquer fans.
Yeah, and I think that, it's worked great in RTS games, especially when you're up so high. You need to get in close and personal and see the details. We've made the decision to go completely with CG cutscenes and storytelling sequences so we can keep the player in the story the entire time and keep them immersed in it.
All right, Chris, well, thanks for the first ever look at Tiberium. The world-exclusive gameplay looks great, and we will see the game on store shelves later this year for...
Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC.
Fantastic. All right, we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Chris.